did you end up at Anderson University?
Well, it's a wonderful question, a good starting question. So that journey to Anderson University began about 6 years ago, in conversations with President Whitaker about the possibility of engineering at AU. And that journey involved several of those conversations, to which President Whitaker would noddingly and politely say, yeah, very good, Tony. But eventually we had a real conversation, and the short of that conversation is that we created a blue ribbon task force to study the possibility of engineering at AU. And so in 2015 we convened that blue ribbon task force, and the result was a proposal to the president to say, hey, maybe we could consider engineering at AU. At that time, we were in the middle of one of the expansion activities of the university. We were building the student center. It was not the appropriate time to start engineering. So that resulted in engineering taking a little back burner until 2020. So for 5 years, it incubated, and then in 2020, we started the College of Engineering.
And before that, you were at Texas A&M?
That is correct.
That's a pretty large monolith to come from there to here, right?
Yes. Texas A&M is quite a large university with maybe 18 to 20,000 engineers in the College of Engineering, and 68,000 students in its whole portfolio. So it's quite a large university. But the opportunity to be at a faith institution with a rich liberal arts tradition, and to bring engineering into that environment was just very attractive to me, because I hold very dear the concept, the notion that engineers should be equally endowed with the capacity to reason and to think and to engage in debate and nuanced topics, not just present the numbers.
And that's a sort of traditional liberal arts argument about education, correct?
Yes, that's correct. And so this is an opportunity to fuse that rich liberal arts tradition with engineering, which traditionally in engineering is usually just a handshake to some general arts courses in the engineering curriculum, and it's all about engineering. We're trying to do it a little differently here.
And when you were putting together this Blue Ribbon panel, what did you identify as the needs for an engineering program here? What were the goals? What was the idea behind it?
Right. So first and foremost, we wanted to change the overall trajectory for the graduate engineer. We recognize that graduation with an engineering degree often takes more than 4 years. The graduation rate in 4 years is about 33% nationally. We would like to be able to do better than that. So that was one of the motivations. The second is we thought that one way to address that would be to reverse or inverse the curriculum, put much more hands-on experiences in the first year. Traditional engineering education ends in a capstone design project where students have studied all the basics, they know all of the fundamentals, and then they go into design and capstone design. We think that it's possible to approach this by persuading students that design is the hook, and that they will learn the fundamentals because they're passionate about creating and designing. So we put more hands-on experiences in the first year. The second thing is we said, all right, we will embrace the liberal arts tradition and allow our students to see things with a bit of nuance. So we put into the curriculum things like science, technology, engineering and math, and public policy. How does public policy become informed by knowledge of science and math and technology? We also put entrepreneurism in the curriculum. So those were some of the elements that go into the curriculum that informs what we want the student to do when the student graduates.
And I talked a little bit to Dr. Whitaker about this, but y'all worked closely with local corporations and business and industry here on what they need from engineers as well. Is that correct?
Right, that's correct. And so part of that conversation led us to a focus on the major engineering disciplines: electrical engineering, computer engineering, mechanical engineering. Those are the engineering disciplines that are in most demand for our I-85 manufacturing intensive corridor. We see the growth of industry in our region, particularly with regard to manufacturing, and not traditional manufacturing now. It's robotics, it's advanced manufacturing, it's use of smart manufacturing practices, just in time. And so we really want to give our students an opportunity to participate in that growing economy in the region. Anderson University continues to be largely a regionally fed university. That's changing, but most of our students come from the region, and most of our students want to stay in the region. So that gives us the opportunity to put into the curriculum an emphasis, for example, in the mechanical engineering degree is on manufacturing. In the electrical engineering degree, that emphasis is on agility, systems agility. And we also have computer engineering with an emphasis on cyber hardening. We have a cyber security center on the campus, so we're leveraging that asset, working with them to build a different kind of computer engineering program.
And Anderson County has more international development than any other county in the state of South Carolina. There's 51 companies from 18 countries. Mm-hmm. And I guess the demand, particularly from international companies relocating here for engineers, is pretty high. Am I correct?
That is correct. We now have Electrolux having dedicated its Anderson facility as one of its major research centers for Electrolux worldwide. So the R&D center led by R&D director here in Anderson will be the focal point for that. We have other companies coming to the region. TTI, for example, yes.
Gigantic.
Yes. They have emerged as a very important player in the engineering recruitment space. But all of these companies are companies that have the potential for working with Anderson University cooperatively to help define what they expect of the incoming engineer, as well as participating with us in building this engineering college. So I hold a dual responsibility as founding dean of engineering, but I'm also vice president for industry relations. And so that gives me the opportunity to have these conversations with the members of the C-suite of these companies to talk about what engineering education can do for their next set of employees.
And you're setting the wheels in motion this year for the program, right? You have some courses, is that correct?
Yes, well, we've always had at AU a math and engineering degree within the College of Arts and Sciences. The math and engineering degree is a degree program jointly with Clemson University. Students would spend 3 years at Anderson University, complete most of their mathematics for the math and engineering degree, and then transfer to Clemson. And after the their fourth year, which will be their first year at Clemson, they can apply to earn the math and engineering degree. And so we've always had a small cohort of students pursuing that dual degree program. But this year, for the first time, we piloted our program. So we admitted 26 students into this pilot program, very talented, very highly motivated, highly qualified students into this program, and they're off and running.
And next fall, it opens full tilt, correct?
Correct. Next fall, we should open full tilt. We are still recruiting faculty because you need engineering faculty to teach engineering. You need approval from SACS to teach engineering, so we are in the process of seeking those program approvals. But we approached it rather cautiously. We wanted to pilot things, see how they worked, look at the resource requirements. You know, you can always design on paper, but when you design to build, it helps to do a prototype or a pilot. And that's what we've done. We've been prudent, responsible, I think, in approaching a pilot program so that we understand all of the nuance, all of the difficulties associated with curriculum approvals, just getting curriculum approvals within the university. As you know, we have very rigorous processes for assessing new programs. So that itself has to play its course. So we are very proud that we've been able to start a pilot program, but next year we will admit an inaugural class.
Are you working closely with the county and the needs of the county and the county administration and stuff?
Absolutely. The county has been most forthcoming in working with us. In fact, the county is the one who loops us into many of the conversations with companies that are moving to the area. Universities play a very important role in the recruitment of companies to a region, particularly tech companies, whether it's manufacturing or communications tech or other areas of tech. They want to know that they can have a source of employees. And so one of the litmus tests for many of those companies is, what is the local university doing? And not just university, but also the two-year colleges. They are very keen to engage with the two-year colleges as part of that discussion. So we are happy to be at the table, happy to be participating with the county in economic development and playing a role in receiving those companies as they move into the region.
Looking ahead, say 10 years down the road, what would you like to see the reputation of Anderson University's engineering program? How would you like to see that positioned from other people?
That is a $64,000 question. So what I really am hopeful for is an engineering graduate who will be entrepreneurial. That is, whether they are within a large company or on their own, taking a view of engineering that is self-directed. That comes from sharpened or heightened communication skills. So we are emphasizing technical communications within the curriculum. A great sense of ethics, which will be fueled by their faith tradition. We also are hoping that our engineers will be innovation-minded. That is, they will see opportunity and reach for them. And we are designing those things in the curriculum. We're not just expecting those things by wishing for them. We are designing those things, those elements into the curriculum. So there is a course on entrepreneurship and innovation. There is a course on sustainability in the curriculum. So students have a better appreciation of what is expected of them. And I think that has been one of the areas that I hope that we will distinguish ourselves in, that we are delivering in the curriculum what we expect from the student.
What people who don't know you, tell them a little bit about your path. How did you get into engineering, and how did you end up in Anderson, South Carolina?
Oh, thank you. Do you have all day? So I started off as a science major, really, with an emphasis on chemistry and analytical chemistry, biochemistry.
Where were you in school?
I was at the University of the West Indies. I studied at the St. Augustine campus in Trinidad and at the Mona campus in Jamaica. Graduated from the Mona campus in Jamaica, but went to the University of Manchester, the Institute of Science and Technology, and pursued a graduate degree, master's degree in the chemical engineering department in what is called corrosion science and engineering. And then transitioned from there to MIT to study material science and engineering. I did a brief postdoc and then went to industry. And I spent 15 years in industry before I took my first academic position. That was at Virginia Commonwealth University, which at the time was also starting its School of Engineering. So I was one of the first professors recruited into that program. And then 10 years later, I was recruited to Clemson University, which brought me to the region. I liked the region. I spent 10 years, almost 10 years at Clemson University, and have lived in Anderson for the last 16, going on 16 years. But the last 5 years is spent commuting between Anderson and College Station, Texas, and Houston.
That's a pretty good commute.
It's an interesting commute, but it's one that worked for me. It worked very well. There are direct flights between Greenville and Houston, and I could get on a flight at 6:45, 7 a.m. in the morning and be in my office in Houston because of the time difference, the 1 hour difference, and be in my office in Houston by 9 a.m. and then spend the day in Houston doing what I have to do there, and then be in College Station that night. So it worked quite well. I enjoyed it, learned a lot. Will I do it again? No. But it was a good experience.
You must really like this area, though, to have stayed here and stayed in Anderson.
Yes, absolutely. In fact, today I was giving a talk at the Kiwanis Club, and that subject came up at the table. Our love of Anderson. There is a universal love of this community with things that you would not expect. A wonderful arts community, a rich, vibrant arts community in the Arts Center, GAMAC. We have wonderful resources. We are situated conveniently between the mountains and the beaches, and my wife and I would not hesitate on a Saturday to drive to Asheville and have lunch and come back in the afternoon. It's just a wonderful place to be. If we want a city, it's not too far. It's Atlanta or Charlotte. And Greenville, of course, is a gem. We try to tell as few people about it as possible. But Greenville is such a great asset for entertainment and for just a sense of community. I think whenever you go to a city and you see that in the evening, a plurality of people walking the streets, older people, middle-aged, young kids running around, toddlers even. Whenever you see this, it tells you something about the vibrancy of a city. And that's one of the things you see in Greenville. And also in Anderson. Students, let's talk about students, because I'm very student-centered. One of the challenges students face with an engineering curriculum is it's demanding. It's demanding of a different way, a different approach to study. You have to spend time on task. You can't, there's not much room for picking it up as you go. You have to engage with subject. You got to do your problem sets. You got to spend time with your homework. You got to be present, ever present in class. And the first year is the most challenging. When our traditionally admitted students come onto the campus for the first time away from family, or maybe first in family to attend a university, how they manage their time is critical. So we are putting into place peer mentoring support. We want to put in place a number of mentoring programs that would allow students to navigate that first year successfully. Anderson University has a great reputation and in fact has received lots of accolades for its first year program. And you will see that the most recent US News and World Report has been very kind to Anderson University. But peer mentoring is important, and mentoring and professional mentoring also. So that's the first year experience is very valuable. We want to be a place of hospitality for our students. This has to be a place where students feel welcome, they feel valued and privileged, and with that comes some responsibility. So that's a tradition of AU. We want to keep that vibrancy going in engineering, even though we know that in engineering, which is very intense and not a lot of opportunity for social distractions, but we will find those in other creative outlets. So I've already alerted the president that when you have engineers on a campus, it changes the dynamic of the campus. You can expect to see banners flying on the building or something that the engineers put together. So engineers tend to be a little bit of a not mischievous lot. They tend to be a little bit mischievous in the way they do things. So, but we are tolerant, and you have to be tolerant of that, because that's a creative outlet for the creative-minded student.